beautiful memories of their dad and the expressions of gratitude from the general public in terms of his service to guide them forward and to help to ease some of that pain. I also want to extend condolence to the family of Mr. Raphael, better known as Mr. Maslenas. He too was stalwart and always had very kind and supportive and encouraging words, a farmer by profession, helping to ensure that we had food. So just to again say condolences to both of those families.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Very briefly, to be remiss of me, Mr. Speaker, to not extend deepest condolences to the families and friends of Clem Lewis of St. Joseph, better known as Exposer, and Renetta, as mentioned before. They are both bedrocks of our community, stalwart supporters of our party, and I know for sure that they will be greatly missed. I also want to extend a special condolences to our parliamentary colleague, Honorable Paris, on the passing of his mom. Which can express the level of sadness that I feel for Honorable Paris. I cannot begin to imagine the level of pain that he's going through. But just to reiterate and say to him that, you know, you have our unwavering support on this side of this honorable house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I myself would like to extend my deepest condolences to the families of Senator Paris and Isaac Andre and the other people who have been bereaved. So let's move on.
Confirmation of minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, 25th November 2025 be confirmed as circulated.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, 25th November 2025 be confirmed as circulated. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Announcements by Speaker.
I received a letter from Her Excellency Sylvanie Burton regarding the appointment of the Leader of Opposition. Mr. James, I would like you to just read it. Yes, Excellency, yes, Excellency President, yes. Sylvanie Burton, yeah. Mr. James? Yes, so I'll repeat. I received a letter from Her Excellency the President, Sylvanie Burton, regarding the appointment of the Leader of Opposition, and it reads as follows, and I'll ask the clerk to read it.
The Commonwealth of Dominica, Her Excellency Sylvanie Burton, DAH, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, to Mrs. Jesper Paul Victor, by virtue of the power and authority vested in me by subsections 1 and 2 of Section 66 of the Constitution, I do hereby appoint you, the said Jesper Paul Victor, to be the Leader of the Opposition in the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Dominica, with the powers, rights, privileges, and advantages to the same belonging and pertaining for the duration of the tenure of your office as provided for on the subsections 4 and 5 of Section 66 of the said Constitution, with effect from Friday, the 16th day of January 2026, given under her hand and the public seal of the Commonwealth of Dominica at the President's office this 16th day of January 2026. Sylvanie Burton, President of the Commonwealth of Dominica.
Yes, on another matter, just wanted to inform the Honorable House that with us today, we have a team made up of 3 people, led by Audrey Wilson, that's from Pop Box Foundation, a US-based non-profit organization which is involved in facilitating the implementation of e-legislative system. This I have already briefed the Honorable Prime Minister on the matter. Just to tell the House that the focus will be in order to support us in creating the e-government parliament platform initiative. It will involve also e-library and instantaneous creation of draft Hansard and other IT-related initiative that would ensure that it facilitates the process of interaction of members of parliament on research. So we're moving into more the e-government type system. We'll try to also have systems where, for example, using AI that would give us the draft answered instantaneously. So again, we'd like to welcome them. Stand, let the members see who you are. So that's an initiative through discussion with the Honorable Prime Minister that we started long time trying to modernize the Parliament. Okay, in regards to, I received some correspondence from the following members, and as I go, I will just give the reason. Honorable Jolan Defoe is out on official business. Honorable Melissa Poppins-Skerrit attending an urgent matter. Honorable Dennis Charles Pemberton dealing with also an urgent matter. Senator Delbert Paris, as we know, is dealing with the passing of his mom, so dealing with that urgent family matter right now. Senator Lauren Henderson Reid dealing with an urgent personal matter. Honorable Jesma Paul Sim, and Honorable Miriam Blanchard is out of state dealing with a personal matter. That's all the announcement for today.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will be taking all 3 stages of the bill shortly entitled Payment System and Services Act 2026, standing in my name on the order paper.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will be taking all 3 stages of the bill shortly entitled Caribbean Community Movement of Factors 2026, standing in my name on the order paper.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will be taking all 3 stages of the bill shortly entitled Medical Profession Act 2026, standing in my name on the order paper. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will be taking all 3 stages of the bill shortly entitled Nurse and Midwives Act 2026, standing in my name on the other paper. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will be taking all 3 stages of the bill shortly entitled Food Safety Act 2026, standing in my name on the order paper. Thank you.
Statement by ministers.
Yes, Honorable Prime Minister, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to give a short statement on the matter of the long-running suspension of voter registration and the announcement by the Electoral Commission that it is scheduled to resume on March 9, 2026. The government of Dominica welcomes this development, as the right of every eligible Dominican to be registered to vote is a foundational is foundational to our democratic system. It is particularly important for young citizens who have attained voting age and are seeking to exercise their constitutional right for the first time. Mr. Speaker, Section 17(1) of the Registration of Electors Act provides clearly and unequivocally that, and I quote, "There shall be continuous registration of persons qualified under this Act to be registered as electors," end of quote. This imposes a mandatory and ongoing statutory obligation. It does not contemplate suspension on the basis of administrative convenience or technological readiness. The Act contains no provision authorizing the interruption of continuous registration. The prolonged suspension of voter registration on the stated basis that required technology was not ready, therefore represents a serious administrative failure in the discharge of a statutory responsibility. The Commission effectively created an administrative impasse through its own deliberate actions and then relied on that impasse to justify non-compliance with the law. What makes this situation more concerning is that the Electoral Commission procured a technology-supported voter registration and confirmation system from Simplex International in 2017, capable of using the biometrics of facial and fingerprint recognition for the purpose of voter identification. Notwithstanding this, the Commission indicated that following the passage of the Registration of Electors Act 2025, registration could no longer proceed under the previous legislative framework, which also provided for continuous registration. The Commission therefore procured a second technology-supported voter registration and confirmation system from Simplex International in June of 2025. Mr. Speaker, even if preferred technological systems were unavailable, the Commission remained legally obliged to continue registration by manual or legacy methods. It did not opt to do so. The consequence has been a year-long interruption of a statutory process that Parliament clearly intended to be continuous. This has understandably caused public concern, anxiety, and uncertainty. Indeed, the ruling Dominican Labour Party has been prevented for the last 12 months from carrying out a core responsibility of political organizations to bring new voters into the democratic process. While we welcome the resumption of registration, the circumstances leading to this breach must not be ignored. Public confidence in the electoral system depends upon strict adherence to the law and the timely discharge of responsibilities by every institution entrusted with electoral administration. Mr. Speaker, with respect to identification requirements for registration, Parliament, in enacting the Registration of Electors Act 2025, deliberately provided an accessible and inexpensive alternative for persons without government-issued identification, such as a passport, driver's license, or social security card. Regulation 8(4) allows a person seeking registration to submit a passport-sized photograph certified by a justice of the peace as a true and correct image of that person. However, on October 14, 2025, the Electoral Commission, acting independently and in its own deliberate judgment, issued SRO number 39 of 2025. And I want to stress this point of its independently and in its own deliberate judgment, because there are some who are blaming the Dominican Labour Party and the government for this occurrence. The government, Labour Party, has absolutely no role to play in that process, Mr. Speaker. And so, the SRO number 39 2025, which removed the certified passport-sized photograph as an acceptable option for registration and confirmation of registration. In doing so, the Commission departed from the clear intention of Parliament and from the expressed wishes of all political parties. In the public interest, Mr. Speaker, this government has asked, through the Attorney General, the Commission, and the Commission has agreed to make the necessary amendments to the regulations and will reinstate the ID requirements for persons without government-issued identification and thereby restore electoral equality in accordance with the intent of Parliament. Let me again reiterate and make it absolutely clear. The government of the Commonwealth of Dominica and the Dominican Labour Party have had no involvement whatsoever in the operational decisions or administrative processes of the Electoral Commission. The Commission is an independent constitutional body. Its work, including voter registration, confirmation, and the management of the electoral register, is carried out independently of the government and independently of any political party. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, the laws that were passed in 2025 gave the Electoral Commission even more independence and control of the processes with the creation of a fund that is controlled by the Parliament, by the Commission, and which the Parliament itself approved funds to be placed in an account so that the Electoral Commission can carry out its duties without any obstruction. And so neither the government nor the Dominican Labour Party directs, influences, or interferes with the decisions of the Electoral Commission, and we have not done so in this matter. Mr. Speaker, this government remains firmly committed to the rule of law, to the independence of constitutional institutions, and to the protection of every citizen's democratic rights. I therefore encourage all eligible citizens to take full advantage of the opportunity to register once the process resumes on March 8, 2026. And I urge the Electoral Commission to ensure that registration proceeds lawfully, efficiently, and without further interruption in full compliance with the Act. Our democracy is strongest when institutions act within the law, transparently and in a manner that earns and sustains public trust. While I'm on this matter, Mr. Speaker, I also wish to urge everyone who is currently on the register of electors in Dominica to avail themselves of the opportunity to have the names confirmed as a voter or elector in the Commonwealth of Dominica. This process is important, and the centers are open every single day except on a Wednesday or on a Sunday. And the Electoral Commission, as I know, also avails itself to go to the homes of those who are unable to go to the centers to get a name confirmed. And I think this is important to note as well. And I want to thank them and thank the many centers across Dominica for the manner in which they've been conducting themselves. I believe that the process has been efficient, effective, and people have been able to avail themselves and go through the process. So we urge them to do so. As a government, Mr. Speaker, we remain committed to ensuring that the Electoral Commission has all of the resources it needs and requires to carry out its duties as mandated by the Constitution and by the laws of Dominica. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Introduction of bills.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Payment System and Services Act 2026 be read a first time.
Payment System and Services Act 2026.
The bill has been read the first time.
My apologies, Mr. Speaker. I was in Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026 be read a first time.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026.
The bill has been read a first time.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Medical Profession Act 2026 be read a first time.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Medical Professions Act 2026.
The bill has been read a first time.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Nurses and Midwives Act 2026 be read a first time.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Nurses and Midwives Act 2026.
The bill has been read a first time.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Food Safety Act 2026 be read a first time.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Food Safety Act 2026.
The bill has been read a first time.
Public Business, Government Business motion. Second and third reading of this.
I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Payment System and Services Act 2026.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to present to this Honorable House the bill entitled Payment System and Services Bill 2026. This bill is expected to replace the present Payment Systems Act, Chapter 2362 of the 2017 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, which was passed by the House in 2009. The 2009 Payment System Act is a harmonized act which was enacted by all Eastern Caribbean countries, currency union countries. Under the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCB Agreement Act, the bank is responsible for regulating payment systems. Mr. Speaker, the ECCB conducted a review of the 2009 Payment System Act and found some weaknesses, including the following. 1, there is currently no explicit legislation to license or regulate non-bank payment and settlement service providers operating in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. And secondly, the growth of financial technology has introduced new actors whose activities require regulation to maintain financial stability and protect citizens. Consequently, the following consultation with stakeholders, the ECCB has drafted a new bill for enactment by member states of the ECCU. The purpose of the proposed Payment System and Services Act 2026 is to establish a legal framework to enable a payment system that is safe, efficient, resilient, inclusive, and competitive through the management of risk, maintenance of financial stability, and protection of consumers' interests. A payment system is defined in the draft bill as a set of instruments, procedures, and rules for the transfer of funds between or among participants, including participants and the operating entity. These systems facilitate the electronic exchange of value without requiring physical cash or visits to financial institutions, enabling persons, including those in rural areas, to transact using digital devices. The bill, therefore, seeks to govern the operation of payment services within the ECCU. It creates a licensing regime managed by the ECCB, broadens the ECCB scope to regulate non-bank, strengthen consumer protection, enhances safety and efficiency of the ECC payment ecosystem, and builds public confidence in electronic payments. As an ECCU member, Dominica is expected to maintain harmonized legislation for the regulation of payment services. The ECCB has provided the model legislation for adoption with the expectation that all member states will implement the framework to ensure: 1, uniform regulatory standards; 2, protection of consumers and merchants; and thirdly, safe expansion of digital payments across borders. New non-bank players, such as mobile payment providers, have already entered the Dominican market, but cannot be effectively regulated under the current 2009 Act, exposing citizens to risk. This bill, if enacted, will provide the necessary regulatory framework to ensure that these services operate within a safe and supervised environment. In summary, the Payment System and Services Bill 2026 comprises preliminary provisions and 10 parts as follows. Part 1, which deals with administration, speaks to the functions and powers of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. It also provides for the establishment of an Eastern Caribbean Payment Council, if needed, to advise the bank on the oversight of the payment systems and other matters. Part 2, licensing, includes provisions for the requirement for licenses, the classes of licenses, how to apply for licenses, the processing of licenses, license duration, and fees. Part 3, oversight, role and powers of the bank. Part 4, designation of payment systems, includes the bank's authorization to designate and revoke designation of payment systems. Part 5, rules to regulate systems. The operator is to establish clear written rules for government, management, and operations of their systems, to include the minimum rules set by the law, and these rules are to be revised by the bank prior to commencement of operations of the payment system. These rules can subsequently be varied, but with permission of the bank. Part 6, consumer protection, to include rules to ensure transparency of fees, such as posting of notices regarding fees on websites and prominent locations, disclosure of terms and conditions, procedures to handle consumer complaints. Part 7, settlement, netting, and finality of payments, to include how settlements are affected between participants, settlement of accounts, netting arrangements, and collateral for payment and settlement. Part 8, winding up an administration of an operator, a participant or payment service provider, provides requirements to notify participants, and the bank makes provisions for a liquidator or administrator to deal with netting arrangements in the event of insolvency. Part 9, administrative measures and penalties. And finally, Part 10, miscellaneous, includes the maintenance of a register of licenses issued and authorizations granted, the power of the bank to make rules, directives, and guidelines, the power of the Minister of Finance to make regulations, and repealing of the present Payment System Act 2362 of the 2017 laws of Dominica. This bill before the House is a significant upgrade to the existing Act, as it seeks to foster innovation within the Union, promote financial inclusion, and reduce reliance on cash within a robust regulatory framework. I encourage all members of this House to support the bill as our government continues to build financial resilience within the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union and continue to create a favorable environment for further investments in our region. I now commend the bill to the House.
The bill is before the House for debate. Yes, Honorable Prime Minister, you are recognized. You may.
Speaker, just 5 minutes, please. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to make it very clear I am in full support of the bill, the payment system and services, which has been presented by the Honorable Minister for Finance, and to commend him and the Central Bank for taking note of the evolution of this branch of the financial services sector. I believe it was long in coming, but I'm happy that it is finally here. I believe it is good news for both the operators and those seeking services from the operators. I think it will protect both constituents or constituencies in that regard. And of course, the regulatory provisions in the bill are all noted, and we believe that they will address many of the challenges identified. It is an area that has been a gray area for some time, and with very poor regulatory framework outside of just a license. There's no supervision or no due diligence conducted on those providers, and of course this is good news. And it will also help bring them, I think the operators need to look at this also from a positive side. It will also help bring them to the mainstream, Mr. Speaker, bring them to the mainstream. So I want to say that I am in full support of the provisions in this bill, and importantly, we have to move very quickly, Honorable Minister of Finance, with the regulations, because the regulations are going to be very crucial in the operationalization of the Act, and to define some of the sections more in a more operational detail. So we're hoping that that can be done very quickly. And so this is a major improvement. There's firstly a dramatic improvement from the 2009 Act, which will be repealed with the passage of this current bill before us for debate and for approval. But Mr. Speaker, we also have to look at some of the real issues confronting the Eastern Caribbean, and more broadly the Caribbean. But we have the Monetary Council, we have a central bank that we have delegated our monetary policies to. So monetary policy in Dominica is governed by a central body, which is the Monetary Council. And so Dominica cannot implement its own monetary policies and banking rules and banking laws. All of the laws are unified, they are common in nature, because we have one single central bank and one single entity that deals with monetary policies. And as I've said publicly many times, and I've also addressed this both in writing to the central bank and also, of course, in my interaction with the central bank and my other colleagues, colleague prime ministers, and of course, when I served on the Monetary Council, I was very, very vehement about the need for us to appear to be more progressive with our policies. If we're going to build the economies of our Eastern Caribbean, to the extent to which we have to build it to create jobs and greater opportunities for our people, we have to have a more robust banking system. If we cannot bring money into our country, we are not going to see the kind of growth in the economy that we want to see, Mr. Speaker. Foreign direct investment is a crucial pillar for economic growth and investment. And if investors cannot bring money into our countries, then there'll be no foreign direct investment. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, we have to graduate to a point in the Eastern Caribbean where we have paperless money. And how do we achieve paperless money? We have to ensure that the banking system is robust. Yes, it meets all of the requirements, international requirements. But I get the impression, Mr. Speaker, that in the Caribbean and more so in the Eastern Caribbean, that we are managing fear and not managing risk. And the developed countries, Mr. Speaker, they're growing And they're seeing larger foreign direct investments because they have a robust banking system. There is something called KYC, know your customer, know your client. And there are mechanisms in place, due diligence mechanisms in place for that to be known. And I think once that is established, then what are the issues? So we have to address the issue of banking. And I'm not here to prescribe to the bank because I don't interfere in the way that the banks operate. Even the National Bank, I have no interference with the National Bank, and notwithstanding the fact that the government has a majority share, and the government can even appoint all of the directors because of its share of the holdings if it join forces with the Social Security. And even when we appoint people to the board, I have no interaction with them. I don't disagree with many things they do or say in respect to banking, but I respect that. And so I'm in a position where I can critique and share concerns on behalf of the people of the country. So I don't want anybody to misconstrue or take my comments personal at all. But I'm just relaying the sentiments of the Dominican citizens who I interact with on a regular basis, businessmen, ordinary Dominicans, people who come to do business in Dominica. So we have to find a way of addressing this issue. Because I find it extremely concerning that someone has monies in Bank of America and is seeking to transfer those monies into Dominica from Bank of America, and you're having difficulties. I'm not even going to go outside of monies coming from the United States. And so there has to be a greater transparency insofar as the requirements. You get the impression, Mr. Speaker, in our jurisdiction, the requirements change every time you come to see the person. So they ask you for this, you bring it, they tell you bring that, you bring this, and so you never clear as to, okay, these are the 10 documents that you have to present. And if you present them, they examine, they're satisfied, they meet the satisfaction, they proceed. So for us to create jobs for the young people of Dominica, all of what we're doing, from geothermal, which will commission at the end of March, to the airport, to the marina, to all the road infrastructure, to the investment that we're facilitating with local investors and all what the government is doing, will not yield the kind of returns that we envisage if we cannot get money from outside to add with what we're making inside Dominica. You're going to have a challenge. And you have so many small businesses in Dominica who are unable to do any banking, who are unable to sell their products overseas because they do not have a payment system or receiving monies. And then we are growing service industry, Mr. Speaker. When I travel across Dominica and I meet so many people involved in the rental of properties for short stay or long stay, and some other part of the Airbnb arrangements, this is growing in a phenomenal manner, Mr. Speaker, in a dramatic way that it's even not known to the statistics department in the country because those persons are not captured in the statistics of Dominica. That's why I always maintain that our GDP, Mr. Speaker, is way higher than has been reported because there's a large percentage of business transactions that are not captured in the formal economy. Somebody goes to Guadeloupe with cocoa sticks and honey and other products. They put it as personal luggage. They bring the monies back and they make payments and they transact, but that's not captured. That's not captured at all. But the bigger challenge which operators in the rural Dominica, and even in the capital itself, who are having, is the difficulty in getting, even, Mr. Speaker, a credit card payment system. It is almost impossible. You almost have a snowball chance in hell if you make an application. And there's no tourist who's going to come to Dominica with $25,000 US in their pocket. They're going to come with credit cards. They're going to come with debit cards. We have our friends here who are here helping us. I'm sure they have credit cards and debit cards, Mr. Speaker. And that's how they will transact. People use their phones to make payments. And how do we get to the modern era of banking and payment systems, and to ensure that the public officer, who God has blessed her, she has an upstairs and she builds downstairs and she's renting and she's making an income, to supplement that which is getting from the public service and to have a retirement plan, how does she get to be part of this legal system of her payments and to ensure that her guests who come in are able to pay her through this credit card and debit card? I mean, credit cards and debit cards have been in force for so long. I mean, credit card systems have been in force for so long. Mobile credit cards. Nobody wants you to take the credit card, anyone, Mr. Speaker, and go into our office and to swipe the cards. They want the cards, they want to put their pin in front just for themselves privately, Mr. Speaker, at the table. And how do we get to this point? These are the kinds of things I believe that we need to discuss in a robust way, in a transparent way, and to ensure that the central bank cannot say to us that they are powerless. Governments in the Eastern Caribbean delegated its authority to the central bank to regulate banks. And the bank cannot sit idle by, Mr. Speaker, and do nothing about it and say they're powerless and leave it to governments. No, we have delegated the authority of banking, everything from license to investigations to audits, everything to the central bank by Banking Act, which was amended, I believe, last year as well, for the strengthening the authority of the central bank. So I think there has to be this discussion. No, I'm not saying that the banks don't have certain challenges. I'm not saying that. But in discussion, those challenges will be placed on the table. They will be examined, and we'll see what kind of guidance can we provide. I believe also we should invite the corresponding banks here to engage in discussions and be part of that discussion to see what are the challenges you have, what are the concerns that you have. But we cannot build an economy in the Eastern Caribbean and to address the gaps that we have with development unless we have a serious banking system. Because if you cannot transact with the world, Mr. Speaker, then there's no trade. We'll just have a village credit union. Would be a village credit union. And if somebody who has an Airbnb and has properties for rent and cannot get people to pay by credit cards, you have a challenge in maximizing the benefits that we're seeing coming in. I mean, just in the month of February, over 10,000 people came into the country. And how do we maximize this stuff? Everyone has a credit card. And you go to the ATM, ATM tells you can only withdraw $200 out. Well, what's $200? That's lunch. A round of beers. People want to spend when they come to Dominica, Mr. Speaker. They want to spend, and how do we facilitate them to spend? So that our people can have more money, because at the end of the day, no matter what we say, we have to make money. Individuals, communities, the country must make money in order for us to build ourselves and to build our country. And to give our young people hope that they can reside in Dominica and be what they want to be and invest in what they want to invest and see the kind of life that they want to have. So, understand my frustration, Mr. Speaker, of this placing a serious limiting factor on the progress that we ought to be making in the country in our ability to do business in the rest of the world. Opening an account in Dominica and Eastern Caribbean and the wider Caribbean is almost impossible for ordinary people. Why is it a citizen of the Caribbean cannot open a banking account in his own country when there are basic requirements that you need? It is not who has an account, is where the money is coming from. That's really the greater concern. And if a Dominican now, the people who receive public assistance, Mr. Speaker, we cannot pay them for the bank because they don't have an account. These are the things that we have to discuss. So I welcome this, Mr. Speaker. But I believe for this very important piece of legislation to accrue the kind of benefits that we envisage, there are other aspects that we have to examine. Real aspects, practical aspects that are happening to the people of the monetary union, Mr. Speaker, to address. My position to the central bank has been well stated. When I was there as chairman, as member, I wrote on this matter. Not only spoke at the monetary council meeting, but I wrote on these matters. And I've had several discussions with my colleagues on this. And it's something that I'm going to pursue this year even more vigorously because it is crucial to us. It is crucial to us. Because these money services, Honorable Minister, colleagues, came about because of a vacuum, of a gap. Even these banks in this government do not have a policy on small businesses, on lending to small businesses. And now it is left to the government now, who should not be in banking, to be involved in lending money to small businesses. The government was never envisaged for government to be in banking and lending money, or providing money to be lent. No, but there's a gap. And what should the government do? That's why 2 years ago when we put the $40 million at the aid bank, it was to do that very same thing, because the commercial banks do not have a policy towards lending to small businesses. It is easier, Honorable Member, for Marigot to buy a vehicle for $200,000 from the bank than to get a loan to build a house for $250,000. That's why people buy vehicles. It's easier than to build a house, and it should not be. So there has to be this conversation. Otherwise, we will not see the kind of benefits, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry to keep lamenting on this point. And people may say, what scared you, the Prime Minister, you, the government, why you guys can't do all these things? No, we can't do this because we are part of a monetary union. Banking is regulated by the central bank. Licenses are granted by the central bank. Even the board members have to be approved prior to the appointment by the central bank. Even that, I think we should amend. We should amend that, Mr. Minister. I think it's foolishness for us to wait for a show. Let's wait for the banks who tell you approve somebody in the board. No, I think we should amend that. I want to amend that, Mr. Speaker. Amen. Yes, we are strong in regulation, which is important because we are part of an international financial system, and of course we are subjected to international rules, some of which are unfair, but that's the world. The world is unfair. So we have to subject ourselves to implementing a number of measures that are imposed upon us. But we have to look at the other side of things, which is facilitation. And what do we need to do to facilitate foreign direct investment? What do we need to do to facilitate an ecosystem that takes into consideration small business, the growing small business in our monetary council? And to ensure that these small businesses have the modern tools of financial payment systems to facilitate the businesses. How do we do that? Because the lady who has the bar in Calibishi selling good local food and providing a good service will only see the kind of returns that are available if she is facilitated with a modern payment system. If she has a little drawer made of wood and she has to push the drawer and take money from it and to pay person cash and so forth, it's not going to work for her anymore. That was 20 years ago. But now we are working with credit cards. We're working with debit cards. Because that's where the world is going. And how do we get there and to be part of that system as small island nations that so desperately needs foreign direct investment? And that so desperately needs that when a tourist comes to Dominica, that he can spend as much as he is able to spend. But when if he goes to the credit card, to the ATM, and there's a limit, or you tell it you go to the bank with 500 euros. 500 euros times 3.2, you do the math, Mr. Speaker. And you tell me you can only change 200. So he takes that 300 euro and he goes back to France with it, or he goes back to Germany with it. We denied the little restaurant person teaching in Bell Hall, or keeping it real, from taking that 300 euros and saving it in the bank and creating more wealth for themselves so that they can be greater contributors to the economic transformation and the financial transformation of Dominica. Because we cannot speak to people about building financial wealth if they're unable to bank it. And what that happens when the banks fail to do this, then you'll have the credit unions doing things that the credit unions ought not to be engaged in, or not to the extent that they should be engaging in it. And thank God for the credit unions, Mr. Speaker. Thank God for the credit unions. I want to commend the credit union movement in Dominica for really responding in large measure to the gaps that have been created by the banking system. But that also poses a risk, because they may go way beyond their remit and their abilities just because they are so concerned about the welfare of the members. They're seeking to do something to facilitate. And so I want to make this point in furtherance of the arguments for why we need to have this bill upgraded, this law upgraded. But I believe crucially, Mr. Speaker, we have to look about the issue of facilitation, the banking system, bringing money into Dominica, establishing an account at the banks. It is impossible for many local people. And you have so many people in the Caribbean, the entire Caribbean, from Jamaica down to Suriname, who are unable to transact with a bank. Businessmen, ordinary people, unable to transact. And so for us we need to move quicker into a paperless system. But I do not believe that we have the aptitude yet, and neither do we have the broader perspective of things. As I said, Mr. Speaker, we're managing fear rather than managing risk. And if you're managing fear, then you will do nothing. You just do administrative things, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you this and that, and people come put money in there, you write a check, you do something. But in terms of looking to see how you can use the institution to grow the economy, to create jobs, to create wealth, to facilitate, how do you reduce the interest rate, and which aspect of the economy needs financing that is not properly financed, and how you can appropriate monies for these things, and how you can facilitate, and going around to see if there are properties that need to be enhanced, or people doing business and you encourage them to take loans. Anytime you hear from any bank in the Caribbean now, is tell you that they approve $50,000 for you to do anything. And so people go and take $50,000. It happened to me, means I take the money, but they tell me I have $50,000 approved. But I say never approve for no loan. Just $50,000, that's so. But if I had gone there and asked for a loan to do something, to create jobs, they would tell me no. And so the banks have to look at moving away from merely focusing on consumables, short-term loans, 4 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, and see how we can ensure. The government is more than prepared to sit down and engage. Are there some policies that the government can implement? Are there some legislative system the government can put in place? What is one thing from the government perspective we can do to facilitate this? But a lot reside with how banking is conducted in the Caribbean and the sheer number of challenges that people are having to bring money into Dominica, to bring money into the monetary thing. We cannot, Mr. Minister, Honorable Minister, we cannot just only rely and say, well, for how many years the Eastern Caribbean dollar has been pegged to the US and it has been stable, it's never gone down and so on. That's great. But what does that mean for the small business person? What does that mean for the person who is trying to get some kind of partnership with a foreign investor who wants to bring in 5 or 6 or 2 or 20 or $15 million to invest in Dominica? What does that mean for the person who wants to establish a hotel in Dominica? What does that mean for somebody who wants to establish a water bottling plant in Dominica, or somebody who wants to build a private hospital? To allow for people to come to Dominica and get advanced medical care, and also all people can benefit from it, instead of people going overseas. What does that mean for us? What does it mean for the ordinary person, the fisherman, the taxi operator, the person who has a small restaurant, a bar, in the communities, who see tourists coming to their places but they cannot transact with them because they don't have a credit card machine? So, Speaker, you know, I like to keep things simple and not get into any technobabble. But these are the things that people experience on a daily basis in our country. And in every one of the member states of the Monetary Council, Monetary Union. And these are challenges. And I will continue to engage the governor of the central bank on this, and my other colleague, prime ministers on this, that we have to find a mechanism. Now, one may say it may not be as simple as you are sounding. Yeah, okay. But what is it can we do? What is it should we be doing? But the banks cannot appear to be innocuous or non-existent or not part of the economic welfare, well-being, and development of Dominica. I was speaking to a Dominican living overseas. Dominican living in America, the person came down. Wants to open a bank account in Dominica. The person lives in New York but has a driver's license from Georgia, instead of Georgia. And the bank is saying, well, why you come you live in New York and you have a license in Georgia? And on that basis, the person say, well, you must have a driver's license from New York. Where you staying? So these are the real things. Now, this is a person who wanted to buy a house in Dominica. And the person wanted to establish the account so that the monies could be transferred from the Bank of America to the account in Dominica to transact the purchase of the house. The house cost $1.43 million. So we lost that because the person wasn't able to open the account. So for the country to see, to enjoy, and sorry I say 5 minutes, Honourable Minister. So I apologize for going for so long. You know, yeah. It's just like I got my mouse here, 5 + 5 = 55, yeah. But I appreciate my anxiety on this. This government has done, and I dare say so with the greatest sense of humility, tremendous things in this country. And we are doing heroic things in this country, all of the challenges the world is having, including Dominica. That we're seeing the most investments in the country by a government in any time in its history. Whether it's from infrastructure, from supporting the private sector, to small business development, to agriculture, Mr. Speaker, to health, to education, unprecedented. And one of the most difficult periods in the world's history. But my greatest concern is that with all of this effort, with all of this heroic effort of mobilizing the resources to get going, Dominicans will not enjoy the real benefit of those investments because of missing components which have nothing to do with the government, but which are crucial to achieving that desired objective. And so I believe that we have to look at rules and regulations and legislation. First of all, I believe Dominicans, we need to read the law. And also not assume what is the law. We have to read the law. So even with regard, my final point, Mr. Speaker, even with regard to declaration of source of funds, you get a check from the government. I'm traveling, Mr. Speaker, as Prime Minister, I get an advance to pay my hotel and buy lunch. Though the money they give me, Mr. Speaker, can't buy lunch for me. Just wait, tell you. I'm money they give me there. Can't buy. Tell you something. Something you have to skip lunch. Let tell you something. If you're not careful when you travel as a minister or public officer, you have to skip meals. You know, you can have advance they give you these days and so on. You understand? It's the same thing they was in 25 years. I mean, we have to travel your crackers, biscuit, and your cube cheese, you know, Mr. Speaker. You know? So you get a check, and because we do a lot of business with the National Bank, I say National Bank. So the government accounts with the National Bank. You get a check, National Bank of Dominica, Government of Dominica National Bank, and they tell you have to declare source of funds. You have to declare.
Mr. Speaker, I do move that the Prime Minister be given an additional
10 gone already?
10 minutes. 10 minutes. To conclude his contribution.
I beg to second, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Prime Minister given an additional 10 minutes. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Thank you. So I'm asked to declare source of funds, but I comply because, you know, I respect the laws, and so even if I think the law, the interpretation of the law is wrong, but I comply. I comply all the time, and I think all of us need to comply with that. But I believe that the interpretation of the law is wrong by the banks. You understand what I'm saying? It's wrong, but you have to comply. You know. So Mr. Speaker, I really support this. I think it is important. The upgrade is important, but we have to not only focus on regulation and licensing. We have to also look at facilitation of business. How do we facilitate business? We must not appear to be preventative. We must appear to be facilitative, Mr. Speaker. We must create the environment for this. So not only focus on this, I think the central bank has a dual function. Monetary policy is important for economic development, but it must not be looked at only from a regulatory standpoint. And I consider that we are looking largely at the regulatory component of it, and not as how can we use monetary policy to generate economic development and to let lending be cheaper to both private and investors and individual citizens of our country. And how can we continue to reduce the interest rates? Because interest rates at 10% still at the commercial banks for investments is high when you compare to 2% and 1% in the developed countries. And the developed countries having export-import banks who can facilitate them in their exports. And that is why we find ourselves, it's difficult for us to sustain industries because we do not have the competitive elements. We just can't compete on all fronts, Mr. Speaker. And so I share these sentiments, hoping that it can generate discussion. But I believe from the Ministry of Finance standpoint, who are the ones interfacing in the central bank more than me, I think that we need to lead that discussion and to bring business people together, bring the banks together, invite the central bank, bring everybody together and see how can we overcome this malaise that is challenging us in our efforts towards our ultimate economic and financial independence, and facilitate ordinary Dominicans to make money and to create wealth, to generate wealth for themselves and their families and for the country, so that we can all say for a fact that we see our way, and that we can take advantage of the opportunities that this government has created by projects, by legislation, by providing funds to the Aid Bank and to the National Development Foundation of Dominica and others, credit unions. How do we maximize this to the greater benefit of all of us in this country, and of course the entire monetary union, Mr. Speaker? And so this is a major issue that preoccupies my mind every single day, that we will not see the kind of benefits of this thing if we do not have a robust banking sector that understands its role of managing risk and not managing fear, and how can it position itself to take advantage of the numerous opportunities out there. And I'm not saying this thing, Mr. Speaker, unmindful of the limitations and the restrictions. I'm not saying so. I believe I understand that better than not, I would say most, but than many. But I believe that there is a way. There's a way of facilitating foreign direct investment. I think we have to move away from managing fear and manage risk, and for us to have a more global perspective. And then finally, I say finally, even with regards to crypto, there are many Dominicans, Mr. Speaker, who are involved in crypto transactions and who are transacting in the rest of the world. And as I've said to the bank, to the central bank, I'm not saying to us, let us roll with it today, you know, I'm not saying that. But we must have advice on the table that tells us how we believe that at some point we can be part of that global movement. And I think we can learn from the UAE, who are leaders in this. And if you look at the reports, Mr. Speaker, you recognize that many banks in North America, in the United States in particular, have been part of the crypto experience. And so how do we position ourselves for this? And I believe that we need to have a conversation about this and to examine this new phenomenon. I understand the risk, I understand the challenges. I mean, the value of money drops from time to time, so the value of crypto dropping from time to time should not be a fair factor. But that's where the world is going. That's where the world is going. And if the world is going in a particular direction that is beneficial, I believe we should explore it. I'm not saying to the left side and go with it. No, I'm not saying that. But I believe we should explore it, we should investigate it, and we should be so advised by the central bank of how they believe that we can participate in this, if at all. But for us to take a standoffish approach to it, because the IMF may say, well, don't go this way, that's the way I do it. Well, then, if the IMF will tell us don't go that way, then the IMF must mobilize more resources for us for development at 0% and better terms. And the World Bank must lend us money with none of these restrictions of all of these units that cost how much millions of dollars and taken away from the real investment that you're supposed to be making. And it takes you 10 years to get money from the World Bank to draw down. So if you're going to build a bridge from the World Bank at $10 million, and 10 years later, you want the cost of the bridge? And people have to cross this bridge to go to markets, and to the homes, and to schools. All you do is increasing your debt. And you're not seeing the real-time benefits of this. And so there are a lot of things that I think maybe we need to educate the population on. That some people don't understand and don't factor into their own national discourse as to what government is doing and the challenges government is experiencing. That will limit the impact of what the government is doing on the daily lives of people. Because there are some factors we have no control over. Mr. Speaker, I think I have spoken for way too much time. So I'll end here, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Henderson, you're recognized. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was very reluctant to rise after the comprehensive presentation of the Leader of the House, the Prime Minister. But I just wanted to add my voice and to take the opportunity to commend the Minister of Finance and the Ministry of Finance, as well as the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, for taking to Parliament the Payment System and Services Bill. This is late, but I'm happy that it's here, because we have seen the rise and perhaps the fall of money transfers, even here in Dominica, for the Eastern Caribbean. And consumers need protection. So I'm taking it from the angle of regulating in order to protect users, consumers of services provided, and in this case, to do with your hard-earned money. And I agree with the Prime Minister, we need to also facilitate. And as we move into a cashless society, that we need to create these opportunities and to have them regulated. So I also want to take it from the angle that we need to promote the creation of money transfer systems, the EFTs, using, of course, point of sale transfers as well, allowing vendors, allowing, small businesses to be able to facilitate payments and to eliminate the fees and the charges from those well-established money transfer systems and payment systems like Visa, MasterCard, American Express. I think that is also part of it, what we need to create within that currency union. We need to create more opportunities for the creation of those services within the Eastern Caribbean, within that monetary union, so that we're not just consumers of technology, but creators, innovators, and that we can create our own money transfer system, more banking, for example. Properly regulated, but creating the opportunities and the atmosphere to have investors, international investors as well, to come here, but to create that service in Dominica, within the Eastern Caribbean, so that we can have more opportunities for people and expand in our economy. This move by the ECCU is clearly an opportunity to expand our economic union, to ensure that that economic space can benefit from a well-regulated system of money transfer. But hopefully it will be, again, indigenous in nature, so that more of the benefits, more of the profits, the payments for the services can remain within the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Mr. Speaker, I cannot pass on an opportunity to remind us why it is so important to invest in energy. Because all of this needs energy, and reliable energy. So light cannot go on you. And I got an interesting story a few days ago, that the person selling the pay-as-you-go, the person selling the light, they take their light during the carnival. So that so that person was not able to provide the service to ensure that other people had lights. But it's important that we have a reliable electricity system, a reliable supply of power that will always ensure that we can benefit from these services. You cannot have electronic transfer of funds without electricity. You must have electricity, you must have power. And therefore, the investments that we're making today, this is all part, and all of this, I'm saying this to say that all of these things are connected. All the investments that the state is making in all of these major projects are in one way or the other connected towards one main objective, which is improving the lives of people of Dominica and creating more opportunities for people. And I'm not going to tell you more about the impending commissioning of our geothermal power plant. We'll have the opportunity so to do. But I just wanted to add my voice on this matter and to remind us of the significance of power. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Peanut, you are recognized. You may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Mr. Speaker. The Speaker, it's kind of strange for me to be following the Honorable Prime Minister and Dr. Henderson, but I just thought that as a person that has spent the majority of his adult life within the banking and the financial sector, it was important for me to rise and give support for this Payment Services and Systems Act, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I would like to again congratulate the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Central Bank, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, for putting forward this very progressive bill that will elevate our payment systems to international standards, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the bill aims to increase the safety and efficiency within our payment systems in Dominica. And as we would have heard, The primary way of increasing the safety is by the fact that the Caribbean Central Bank will essentially be licensing, taking a more active role in licensing the various participants, the vendors within that sector. As it is right now, we have actors and so on that are not necessarily licensed involving in various financial services in Dominica. But the licenses of those institutions will increase customer confidence and so on. And hopefully that will serve to also increase participation from the general public in general. The central bank, beyond just license it, will have a more active role in terms of doing reviews of those institutions, including audits when necessary. It will have various licensing categories. So you have different payment sizes, different payment values and volumes will allow them to give different licensing categories to different participants in the sector. So that will encourage a lot more non-bank financial institutions to get involved in facilitating payment services and so on within the currency union, Mr. Speaker. As was rightly said, Mr. Speaker, we have a significant population of people that are not banked, unbanked, we call them, and the underserved people in this country and in the union in general. And that is with respect to the difficulties, the various challenges that, as we said, people get in terms of being able to open accounts, and because of the location and so on, it might be more of a challenge to come to town or wherever you might have a physical bank. But with the increase in the technology, we are able to provide banking services or facilitate payment services to a much wider, much more dispersed population, Mr. Speaker. So basically people can get monies credited directly into your account, and they can then be able to use those monies, make payments and so on to various service providers without ever needing to step out of their various jurisdictions. They don't need to come to town to be able to, so they don't have to go to the bank to make a deposit, they don't have to go to the bank to make a withdrawal. They don't need to use physical cash to be able to make payments. So as we have the number of people participating in these more electronic payment systems, then we have more people being interested in being part of it. Because if you know that all the shops in your village will accept a point of sale, then you have more interest in having a debit card or credit card where you can make your payments through point of sale. Furthermore, as we're looking at increasing in financial technology and so on, well, we know they have the issues with I have been a serious issue with my debit card in the sense that every year I need to be changing my debit card because the card breaking up. But with the increasing in financial technology, we have the new technology where you can use your cell phones. You have the digital debit cards and so on. And hopefully this legislation will, as we broaden in the number of people that will get involved, number of people participating in the industry, hopefully we can start to see more of those more novice technologies being introduced into our currency union, Mr. Speaker. Because I personally can't wait for me to be able to use a digital credit card or debit card as opposed to having the physical card that continuing to break every time. But right now, this is not yet introduced into our system. So hopefully, as we continue to build the sector and we continue to get more people actively participating, and the competition will lead to people bringing in more up-to-date services and so on, that we can help advance the overall progress of the services provided in this region, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in terms of the efficiency, increasing efficiency, as you say, the bill hopes to increase the safety and the efficiency. As we will have more people hopefully participating in the sector, we know that the increased competition should lead to a reduction in costs. Some years ago, the central bank introduced the cash, and the whole idea behind it was essentially it should be able to replace physical cash in your pocket. But for you to be able to do that effectively, you have to have minimal towards no cost to undertake a transaction. If you go in the market and you want to do your normal shopping and you want to be able to pay with electronic, you do not want to be charged 2%, 3%, 5% to do a transaction. Otherwise, people will opt towards using cash instead where there is no charge. So to enable the technology to gain popularity and to be widely used, you have to move towards reducing and eliminating the additional costs or costs relating to the transactions. So transactions costs have to be reduced and eliminated. And that will encourage more and more people to adopt the technology, Mr. Speaker. So as we continue to have more people participating, then the competition will hopefully lead to a reduction in those additional costs, and that hopefully will lead to more people adopting the services. The enhancing the payment system and so on will also reduce our dependency on traditional correspondent banks. If, for example, we are able to if you have a company incorporated in Dominica, in St. Lucia, and the rest of the currency union, you could facilitate payments between these countries without you needing to go for a correspondent bank, Mr. Speaker. Going for correspondent bank, you might have to be physically present at the location to be able to access your account. That is probably one thing. The other thing is you have banking fees and so on. So the more intermediaries you have between you and the vendor, is the more charges, the more costs related to it. So if we can reduce and eliminate the various intermediaries, corresponding banks and other people in there, then we can serve to reduce the actual cost of transacting on the system, Mr. Speaker. So again, that will make it more attractive, more people will be inclined to use and participate in it. So, Mr. Speaker, in general, we just seeing that this is another step in advancing our overall financial system or financial sector. It is a good thing. It's bringing us in closer and more in compliance with international standards. And so I just want to give my full and unequivocal support to this bill, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Grant, you are recognized. You may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to lend my support to the Payment Systems and Services Bill this morning, Mr. Speaker. This bill aims to improve the safety and efficiency of the region's payment system, and I think the Minister of Finance and the Ministry of Finance must be commended for bringing forth this bill. It will not only cover the traditional banks, but also the non-banking payment providers, Mr. Speaker. We also know that the bill covers the electronic and digital payment platforms, and this is important as we move to a digital era. But most important, Mr. Speaker, this bill safeguards the consumers. You know, it takes in consideration the terms of the fees and the conditions of payments, and that is something that the consumers can look forward to. Mr. Speaker, the government and the Ministry of Finance, as well as the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, must be commended, because this year they will be celebrating the 50th anniversary that the U.S. has been pegged against Eastern Caribbean dollar at $2.70. And this is important as we are faced with global issues. Financial stability, Mr. Speaker, for our region is very critical at this time. And I think the Ministry of Finance, the Minister of Finance, as well as the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union has to be commended for this. It's also important to note, Mr. Speaker, that the Currency Union has maintained a minimum of 2% interest rate. And Mr. Speaker, there should be more. As consumers, we all want more money on our savings, but I think this is commendable that it has been maintained at 2%. This bill is important and timely. As the government, we have an obligation to protect the citizens, and this is what the bill is doing for us. Mr. Speaker, within the Ministry of Digital Transformation, we are playing our role, Mr. Speaker. So the government contracted a loan some time ago of 75 million EC, where we provide not only training, but recently, Mr. Speaker, we provided just over $1.3 million in digital grants to ensure that our small businesses can be brought up to speed in terms of their payment systems, their online presence, their accounting, and so on. So the government is investing in our young people and our small businesses. Recently, Mr. Speaker, we invested $160,000 in 100 point-of-sale systems, and this was provided to our vendors and our tour operators, and this will allow them, Mr. Speaker, to take debit and credit cards, because it's a complaint that the vendors had, Mr. Speaker, that they were losing revenue because they are unable to accept the cards. And the bank was saying that it's costing them money, so they were not bringing in these machines in a timely manner. So the government invested $160,000, which equals to a total of 100 machines. Each machine costs $1,600, Mr. Speaker, and this was provided to the vendors, taxi operators, and a number of other small business in allowing them to take credit and debit cards from their customers, Mr. Speaker. We are also working as we speak with other service provider because some of these machines require data or Wi-Fi, Mr. Speaker. So we are hoping in the coming months that we can provide an additional support in terms of a data package to these small businesses. Mr. Speaker, we must commend the Honorable Prime Minister, the Minister for Finance, the Minister for National Security, the Minister for Tourism, because in the last week and the last couple of weeks, Mr. Speaker, money has been circulated in the economy. Money has been in the pockets of Dominicans, Mr. Speaker, and this is important for all of our citizens. And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, we are bearing fruits. We are seeing the fruits of our investments. The investment in our small businesses, the investment in our roads, in our local artists. All of the concessions that we are granting in terms of duty-free to our taxi drivers, to our hoteliers and other small businesses. The concessionary financing. All of these investments are bearing fruit and we are seeing the money circulating within the economy. And it's important that this bill is enacted to provide a level of safety and security for our vendors and our other small businesses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2027, when the airport is complete, Mr. Speaker, without the airport even being here, Mr. Speaker, we have already seen that patrons from the Carnival and the Creole Festival are already booking, Mr. Speaker. So persons are already receiving deposits for 2027 and we are in 2026. And this speaks to the level of confidence that they have not only in the government, but in our entertainment industry and our facilities that we are providing, Mr. Speaker. So they must be commended for this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot of the spoils or the benefits that we have been receiving, some persons attributed to social media. Yes, social media contributes significantly to the promotion of our music, to promotion of our culture and the country, Mr. Speaker. But I would also like to urge Dominicans, just as there is good, the negative that they put out is reaching a number of persons and affecting our businesses in the same manner that the good is affected in a positive way, Mr. Speaker. So let us be mindful what we post, what we say, and how we say it on social media, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I lend my full support to this bill this morning. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to wind up on the debate regarding the payment system bill. But I would just want to stress the point, Mr. Speaker, that this bill must be seen in totality and not just in isolation, in the sense that there are so many things going on presently, Mr. Speaker, in this country in terms of the modern economic infrastructure that we're developing. Minister for Energy did mention the energy system, and in terms of the access to the country, the international airport, that means hundreds and thousands of tourists will be visiting our country, and obviously they would need digital means of payment. But let alone that, this is that's just a part of the whole modern economic infrastructure. Whether it's the roads and bridges, which is the infrastructure, whether it's the education system, whether it's the tourism product that we're developing, whether it's the access, which I mentioned earlier, or the energy, which I mentioned earlier as well. But also a critical part of this modern economic infrastructure is the financial resilience as well. So whereas we're building resilience in all the different areas, but we also have to build resilience in our financial system, which is what this bill is attempting to do. So I think this is a move in the right direction. That's just one of the parts of the puzzle that we have to get together. Obviously, we're building capacity and our health system, etc., but financial resilience is of prime importance in the entire ecosystem of our economic development. Now, Mr. Speaker, the bill also addresses the efficiency part, which some of my colleagues mentioned earlier. It just makes things just a more efficient system of doing business and transactions. And let alone the efficiency part, it's very inclusive in the sense that we have to look at the whole practical part of it. Mr. Speaker, it really doesn't make sense for a farmer in Mount Prosper to lose an entire day on his farm to come all the way to Roseau just to collect a payment. So he loses a day of work on his farm just to come to Roseau to collect a payment. In 2026, Mr. Speaker, that's not acceptable. There has to be a digital way that he can get his payment and he can pay for things as well, which is part of the legislation here in this bill that will address. Mr. Speaker, when hundreds and thousands of tourists come to the Roseau Valley and they go to the vendors in Wharton Waven or Trafalgar or Loda, they don't have cash, they have their cards. And if they cannot use their cards, what do the vendors get from this, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, these are the practical things that we're trying to address. So the legislation is part, and that's the first step. But we have to take it one step further to make sure that the people at the end, where the most impact, the vendors and the farmers, the common man can benefit from this bill. So, Mr. Speaker, and then if we look at it also, Mr. Speaker, we've had good reports in terms of the OECD and the Financial Action Task Force. So in terms of addressing those issues, the legislation just adds to it to make it a more foolproof system, because we did quite a bit of legislation, which is why we got a clean sheet, and almost clean sheet. And then in terms of the whole structural adjustments we did within the Ministry of Finance as well to address those issues. So it's really putting everything together, this legislation, what we've done in terms of the OECD, and where it can get us in terms of the common man, the man on the street, the man on the ground, all our MSME people, that they can benefit from this financial system. And it's even of more importance now, considering within a year or two, when the airport is open and all, well, the geothermal is coming next month, and all these different things, all the marina and the cable car, and when you put all of this together, there'll be thousands of tourists flocking to our shores, and the financial system must be in a position so that we can maximize and get the best out of this and the most out of this for our business people, our entrepreneurs, and then take it to the next level. Also, Mr. Speaker, with this digital aspect of payment, what we'll have is more records and more data, because many a times when you have a small business wanting to go to take their business to the next level and they go to the financial institutions, there's always an issue in terms of their records. So now that we're digitalizing all of this, the non-cash payment system, having records that they can present to the financial institutions to take their business to a next level would make it much easier for all the vendors and all the farmers and all the MSMEs that would like to take their business to the next level. So these are very important points, Mr. Speaker. And also in terms of our policy direction, many a times we need to take policy, make policy decisions, but we lack the information and we lack the data. So with this legislation of all this non-cash payment, there'll be better data, more data, we can analyze it better, and it can direct our policy decisions even better. So Mr. Speaker, in a nutshell, I think this is an excellent piece of legislation. This bill addresses many issues, and it's just a matter of us just taking advantage of such a bill, the business people, and this is a move in the right direction, considering all that we're doing in terms of diversifying and improving our economic diversification and our economic development. I think this is an excellent bill, and it fits in very well into the bigger picture that we have for Dominica. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This concludes the debate. It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Payment System and Services Act 2026 be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will be now read a second time.
Payment Services and Payment System and Services Act 2026.
The bill will now stand committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. House is in And the question is that I do report the bill to the House, without amendment that is. I have to report that the bill shortly entitled Payment System and Services Act 2026 passed the committee stage without amendment. The question is that the report of the committee on the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Payment System and Services Act 2026 be read a third time and passed.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Payment System and Services Act 2026 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Payment System and Services Act 2026.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Mr. Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I rise to present to this honorable House the Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act on behalf of the government. This act is a deliberate, carefully designed instrument to give effect domestically to the rights and obligations of our membership in CARICOM and to unlock the economic and social benefits of closer regional integration. This bill gives domestic legal effect to our regional commitments under the Caribbean Community Revised Treaty of Chaguaramas to deepen economic integration and remove practical barriers to the movement of people, capital, skills, and enterprise. The Caribbean Movement of Factors Act is a critical instrument to translate regional policy into enforceable national law. It strengthens regional integration by creating predictable, transparent, and rights-based rules for mobility and economic participation across member states. The Act removes administrative and legal obstacles to the rights of establishments, the right to provide services, and the right to move capital by nationals and belongers of CARICOM member states. It promotes mutual trust among member states through harmonized procedures and safeguards. Mr. Speaker, the Act enables the movement of capital among member states, which is the main thing, and of course, in the creation of an economic union through the Caribbean Common Market, we are ensuring that all member states with the same legislation, minor amendments for their circumstances, can ensure that all nationals throughout the economic union can enjoy these rights. Increased cross-border investment and entrepreneurship, stronger linkages between firms and markets within the community. For small and vulnerable economies, the Movement of Factors Act is consequently a practical tool to address some of the demographic constraints, expand the availability of skills, and stimulate innovation, enterprise creation, and regional value chains. The Act provides for, and in part 1 of the bill, clauses 1 to 5, includes the short title and interpretation clauses. Clauses 3 and 4 broadly define the rights conferred on CARICOM nationals within the bill. Part 2, right of establishment, provides a deeper description of the obligations of states through the responsible minister to remove restrictions to the unfettered exercise of the right of establishment by a national or belong of CARICOM member states. For example, at Clause 8, the minister shall, by order, adopt measures based on criteria established by the competent organ of the community to safeguard against manipulation or abuse of the right of establishment, to gain an unfair advantage against a national of Dominica and another member state. So that is to say, the minister has the responsibility to safeguard certain interests of naturally born and, of Dominicans, for all Dominican citizens, by whatever means. Part 3, the right to provide services describes the responsibility of the state to remove discriminatory practices that hinder the provision of services by CARICOM nationals. Clause 10.2 also affirms the latitude of the minister to exclude certain financial services from the application of the bill. So there are still areas which the minister may determine by order that non-Dominicans are not permitted to provide. Part 4 highlights the obligations of the minister to facilitate the movement of capital by CARICOM nationals by removing barriers and implementing policies that are favorable to this movement. Clause 15.2 also defines the framework in which cross-border loans for the conduct of business is to be administered. That is to say, you can be in Barbados, for example, and procure a loan to invest in Dominica. So that will be protected and provided for because Barbados would have passed the movement factors on the CARICOM community. Where a loan is to be obtained for purposes in another member state, prior notification shall be given by the person obtaining the loan to the member state in which the loan is being issued or placed. Part 5 provides the framework for discretionary action by the minister to protect the sovereign interests of Dominica. For example, Clause 17.1, where the minister is satisfied that there are serious balance of payments and external financial difficulties or the threat thereof, the minister may, consistent with international obligations assumed by Dominica, adopt or maintain restrictions to address these difficulties. Clause 21 further empowers the minister to restrict the exercise of the rights articulated in this bill. Where the exercise of rights conferred by this act creates serious difficulties in any sector of the economy of Dominica or results in economic hardships in any region thereof, the minister may, subject to the provisions of this section, apply such restrictions on the exercise of rights as the minister considers appropriate in order to resolve the difficulties or alleviate hardships. The other clauses of Part 5 outline the parameters of the framework within which the minister is empowered to act in the national interest. They include non-protectionist policies and consultation with relevant CARICOM entities. Part 6 establishes general guidelines for the administration of the rights of CARICOM nationals within this bill. Clause 27 allows the minister to create mechanisms to determine the transferability of professional qualifications of incoming nationals so that the right of establishment is upheld. Clause 28 establishes the right of a CARICOM national to appeal to the minister for speedy review of decision of a functionary acting within the provision of the bill. Clause 29 describes the offenses associated with the implementation of the bill and penalties associated with infractions against the same. Any person who, contrary to the provisions of this act, obstructs or otherwise impedes a national of a member state in the lawful enjoyment of any right mentioned in Section 4, or any right collateral thereto, commits an offense and shall be liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $5,000 or to imprisonment of a term not exceeding 2 years, or to both such fine and imprisonment. Clause 30 provides for the minister to establish regulations to facilitate the implementation of the provisions of this bill, namely, identify those activities in respect of which the right of establishment shall not apply. B, determine the conditions under which the right of establishment is to be exercised. C, remove restrictions on the entry of managerial, technical, and supervisory staff to be employed in an economic enterprise and their spouses and immediate dependent family members. D, remove restrictions on the entry of spouses and immediate dependent family members of nationals exercising the right to provide services. E, provide for the temporary imposition of restrictions under Section 20. And F, specify the nature of restrictions imposed pursuant to Section 20. Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean community, in its efforts to create a single market and economy, have committed to enact harmonized legislation which citizens of each member state will enjoy reciprocal treatment. That is to say, what we are providing to other nationals within CARICOM, we will be provided the same rights in these other member states. However, in the case of free movement, which is not strictly covered here, but is related to the movement of factors, because if you are free to move and you're not free to establish an enterprise and to provide services and to move your capital freely, then you are restricted. So this is a first step towards the full opening up and to ensure that all member states eventually will enjoy that right. But so far, only Dominica, Barbados, Belize, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines have agreed to provide reciprocal freedom of establishment, freedom of movement in these member states. And so far, I must say, since October 1, 2025, with the coming into effect of the CARICOM Enhanced Protocol of Free Movement, we have seen movement of citizens from mainly Barbados into Dominica, those who are already in Dominica, complying with the requirement to register with the government. And we are happy to see that not many, but we have registered 5 incoming nationals for Barbados, from Barbados, 2 males, and 5, 2 males, 2 females, and 1 Vincentia. So we've had 5 people registering under this new arrangement. For some reason, I don't know, maybe Bell is too far, come in. But we have in Dominica already those who have not yet registered, but we encourage them because it would be important for us to have the numbers and so that we can ensure that we can provide services to them. Now, in Belize, we understood that 1 Dominican has registered in Belize, who is now retired and who have decided to remain. So they have that right so to do under the Enhanced Protocol of Free Movement. In Barbados, so far, 10 Dominicans, 7 females and 3 males have registered, but I know there are much more Dominicans than that in Barbados. There are many of them, and perhaps some of them have taken, I don't know, citizenship there, so there's no need to register. In St. Vincent, does not require Dominicans to register. We don't have any information there, and there may be other reasons why they may not want to register, I don't know. But we encourage our people to keep the registry so that we know where the numbers are. It is interesting to note that some of the member states that were more reluctant in giving full effect to the movement of our people must be somewhat disappointed that there has been no exodus of people in one direction or another, because that's what most people were fearful of, and even I'm sure some of us at home. It's early days, I will admit, but people expected as soon as the gates were open that there would have been an influx of people from the other member states. That has not happened. It is our hope, however, that as CARICOM meets in St. Kitts and Nevis, our heads will commit themselves to give full effect to the free movement of our citizens. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act aligns with our national development objectives, including labor markets resilience, private sector development, and regional competitiveness. At the regional level, it advances CARICOM's strategic vision of a single economic space capable of responding collectively to global economic uncertainty, climate vulnerability, and demographic change. The Act, therefore, is not merely a technical legal instrument. It is a statement of interest about the kind of region we are building, one that is integrated, dynamic, and people-centered. By supporting this Act, we reaffirm our commitment to shared prosperity, regional solidarity, and practical realization of free movement as a cornerstone of Caribbean integration. I therefore commend this bill to this Honorable House and invite the full support of members on both sides as we take this important step forward to Caribbean integration.
The bill is before the House for debate. Yes, Honorable Wenham Shepherd, you are recognized. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in full support of this bill for an act to give effect to the provisions of the treaty establishing the Caribbean community, including the CARICOM single market and economy. Mr. Speaker, at some point in my life, I'm very young, yes, but I was CARICOM Youth Ambassador and had to champion that cause. And every time I hear CSME and single market economy and our move closer to what I would see as a full implementation of such, I am always eager to share on those topics. Mr. Speaker, this is not simply an amendment to our laws, but it is a strategic step forward for Dominica. It is a declaration that we understand that our future is stronger when it is regional and collaborative. We cannot necessarily just see, sovereignty as, well, I am the big boy in the room, but it is about the big boy and friends. The treaty establishing the Caribbean community, and particularly the framework of CARICOM, the single market and economy, it provides the right of establishment, the right to provide services, and the right to move capital freely across our member states. The bill ensures too that those rights are given proper legal effect here in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, as parliamentary representative of Portsmouth, I see daily the aspirations of our people. Our young entrepreneurs seeking new markets, new opportunities for their goods We see professionals wanting to expand their services. These are things that I hear on a daily basis. We have people, for example, or establishments rather, like KB Medics, who is looking to expand, and the rate that this particular medical organization is going, Mr. Speaker, they might well have a number of establishments throughout the region. Our small business owners, I refer to them always as the heartbeat of Portsmouth. They understand that there must be growth. And growth cannot necessarily be confined to our shores. We talk about our population being less than 70,000 people. But when you go CARICOM, you have way more than that. And our young adults are moving in that direction. The right to establishment means that a Dominican entrepreneur, as I said, can establish business otherwise or in other territories without the unnecessary barriers. Before they had to present a number of particulars, and now we're hearing that that is going to be removed, so that is a good day. And just the other nationals, they too are going to be able to do the same thing here in Dominica. And Prime Minister mentioned earlier in his presentation that we shouldn't be servicing fear, but we should be looking at the risks and being ready to take them. So that is a good opportunity for that. Again, it enlarges our economic footprint. It goes way beyond our 290 square miles. And the right to provide services, Mr. Speaker, is particularly significant in today's knowledge-based economy. Our teachers, our engineers, our nurses, our consultants, the ICT professionals, our creatives, they must be able to offer their expertise throughout the region as well. And probably to minimize some of the chatter that we heard after Carnival. And when our people's skills can travel, it also means that there are way more opportunities for them. Mr. Speaker, the free movement of capital, free movement of money. We looked earlier at the bill, that would make facilitation of the movement of capital even easier. As long as we can get the implementation going and doing it in the right way, then it means investment flows would be much easier. It means more partnerships can be formed, and of course, economic confidence is strengthened. For small states like Dominica, capital mobility within the region supports our resilience, that is for certain, and of course, bringing forth more development. Mr. Speaker, allow me just for a moment to speak also from the perspective of education reform. If we are serious about preparing our young adults, and take note, I'm not saying our young people, because when we say young people, it sends a message that we're not yet speaking maturity. So I prefer to say our young adults. Because once you start moving from 1920, into the more productive years, that is where we cement or we lock in our future progress. And if we're speaking seriously about preparing our young people, then we have to look at not just the Dominican market, but of course our Caribbean market, and of course the reforms in our curriculum, our digital literacy, technical and vocational educations. And so it means that our skills certificates must be aligned to that sort of movement. And this legislation is what brings that vision to life. And when our Dominican students graduate, and we're speaking regionally now, so when our students graduate, we must ensure that they're region ready. So it's no longer you being St. Lucian and being ready for just St. Lucia, but you're going to be ready for the Caribbean. The same authors for a Dominican student. Mr. Speaker, our students must possess the qualifications that are recognized, again, across CARICOM, and they must see themselves now as Caribbean citizens. competing, and of course, excelling, importantly, in a wider economic space. Of course, this bill, it reinforces that pathway. Mr. Speaker, regional integration is not about surrendering, giving up your sovereignty. It is about pooling the strengths, as I said earlier. It is about ensuring that our small states are not isolated in a global economy that is increasingly competitive. And we see recently that these times are quite unforgiving. So we must be able, to stand up with the other larger groupings, if you want to say that. By fully implementing our obligations under this treaty, including the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, we send a clear message that Dominica, it honors its commitments. Dominica believes in regional cooperation, and Dominica understands that unity is what will bring again the resilience, the strength that we need. And Mr. Speaker, just to go back home, in Portsmouth, I can tell you that we are working to build opportunity in the various sectors: tourism, small business, enterprise, young, engaging our youth. And regional integration, what it will do is that it multiplies those opportunities. Now, I cannot not repeat, because repetition is what will help you to understand and to help you to sink in. So we cannot not talk about the opportunities every time we speak about this particular bill. It opens doors for our young adults, as I said, it expands our markets, and of course, it also encourages innovations. As you move throughout different countries, different sectors, you'll see that you may have to take on different methods to either grow your business or to add other components to the business as you look to suit your market demand. Mr. Speaker, this bill also preserves the necessary safeguards, and it allows for public protection. It also allows for national security considerations and regulatory oversights. And again, integration doesn't mean that we're being reckless. Rather, it means that we're being structured in our cooperation, and that cooperation too is grounded in the laws. Today, we're choosing openness, and we're not isolating ourselves. So Minister alluded to most people thinking that there's going to be this influx of, other nationals on island, but it is not that. So we're saying that we're not isolating, we're open, we're ready, and we're saying that we're bringing in collaboration, no fragmentation, and opportunities versus limitations. And certainly this is a sign that Dominica will not be left behind at all. I wish to encourage all of us to move forward confidently as proud members of the Caribbean community. And again, Dominica is committed to growth, we're committed to reform, we're committed to the prosperity of our people. And with these simple words, these few words, Mr. Speaker, I lend my full support to this bill. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Frederick, you're on your feet. I saw Honorable Alfred, but she's still sitting. So you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and all members of this House. I rise in support of this bill, Mr. Speaker. I think the comrade member for the Granby constituency and the Minister for Foreign Affairs give a really good synopsis of what encapsulates our interest in this bill. And I stand to speak about the enduring importance of CARICOM. Because for me, a student of history, a First Nation person, a First people, that arrangement is a continuation of the ancient ways. So it is, because there's always been a movement of goods, services, people, stories across our region for thousands of years. So long before this modern Dominican state or white Cuban state, long before the Caribbean, long before all the governments and flags and national songs and parliaments. People were moving across the region. We were moving. And we understood that we needed to do so for our basic survival. And so we saw this sea as a gateway rather than a separation among our countries. And so I'm excited about this because it brings a modern aspect to the ancient wisdom of my ancestors. It is really the foundation of our region, the CARICOM, that concept, do late or do bastardizing in some ways, but it is what makes us who we are as a region. And so movement of factors, economists call that, this is sort of an economic word, but it's not new to us. Our ancestors, we practiced this, we had land stewardship, our labor was shared, what we now call kudme in Dominica. All our resources were exchanged, and knowledge and culture moved freely across the region. So regionalism is not foreign to us. It should not be, because it is ancestral. And so the CARICOM and the sort of what I want to coin the modern movement of factors. And through the CARICOM single market and economy, we formalized our ancestors and what they understood to be integration as a movement that strengthens small societies. And so, Mr. Speaker, this is no little thing in this. That's serious business, because when we look at the constructs of the CARICOM, we see that the free movement of skills people is important. While we build international port, we do marina, we build proper networks. All of this is important. We talk about nurses, doctors, artisans. We talk about professionals who move across the borders to fill in the gaps and also to strengthen our capacity. And so we should not be fearful. So for a small island like ours, Waitikobuli, Dominica, it ensures that the talent is not trapped in a geography, that it can move around freely. Also, the minister spoke about the goods and services. With reduced trade barriers, it allows regional production and also consumption, Mr. Speaker. And so, for example, the Port of Roseau and the new improved port we will do in a few years' time, it becomes a gateway of cooperation rather than dependency. And Mr. Speaker, we spoke also about the movement of capital, very important in this entire bill, and investment flows within the regions, and it allows the Caribbean resources to build the Caribbean infrastructure, and also, and so we don't rely solely on external financing. Mr. Speaker, an important piece that sometimes we do not allow to be part of the narrative is also the movement of knowledge. And like I said earlier on, the CXC, for example, the University of the West Indies, ensure that we have standards. And we can speak to our own, or Kafka, for example, when we come to the bills in a moment again, when the health bills, and how we do research and how we innovate across our region. So this is very important. So Mr. Speaker, we know that in 2017, we all experienced Hurricane Maria in 2017. And assistance came from all over the world and came from our region as well. And so from being isolated after a storm, we were able to have a serious movement of people coming to help us. So this is important. So we speak about regional personnel, technical teams. There was a coordinated disaster response that flowed towards us. And so this, Mr. Speaker, is a movement of solidarity. And we need to capture it. And when we speak on the regional forums, we need to highlight how our comrades across the region have assisted us in time of need. Now, in terms of climate negotiations, as the Minister of Environment, it's also important because the CARICOM structure itself ought to continue to amplify our voice within the AOC, which is the Alliance of Small Island States, and our diplomatic strength with collectivity. Like we say, when you're together, it's much more difficult to be broken. And so we are able to do this. Now, Mr. Speaker, circling back, indigenous philosophy meets modern integration. I want to spend a little time on this. Mr. Speaker, the CARICOM attempts to do that. It's a serious attempt, because it's a challenge, right? Because we have our own little flags, we have our own little national dishes, we have our own little songs. We get excited even now in the really capturing the media is that Carnival is better in Dominica or Trinidad, and we have these fights going on internally, and we are part of CARICOM. But we see that we can continue to practice that ancient philosophy of working together. And Mr. Speaker, the Caribbean civilization, as I would like to call it, we can share responses to how vulnerable we are. We can also look at how we circulate our resources, because some of it is very scarce. And also, this movement will also continue to sustain us, Mr. Speaker. So I dare say, if we disconnect from that indigenous philosophy, we will lose a lot, Mr. Speaker. What we're doing here today as a serious action in this parliament, the highest authority of the law-making area of space in our country, is that we are creating a strategic movement for Ireland as well, Mr. Speaker. For Dominica's ambitions to be the first climate resilient country, there are a number of factors that we need to really tie down. We have to ensure that skilled labor is available to build our resilient houses, homes, the capital to finance the green infrastructure we're doing, for example, the geothermal. Also, the goods to support agriculture and food security, and also the knowledge to strengthen our disaster preparedness. So, Mr. Speaker, CARICOM really provides a framework for this circulation, because, Mr. Speaker, isolation really stagnates a country, movement strengthens that, and integration protects. So, Mr. Speaker, as I close, I don't want to sound too poetic, but I've been writing a few things about Carnival history in the past few months. And I just want to say, I want to read this out. The canoe routes of our ancestors have become air routes and shipping lanes. The principle, however, remains unchanged. CARICOM is not simply an economic arrangement. It is the modern vessel carrying forward an indigenous Caribbean philosophy of interconnected survival, Mr. Speaker. Let us therefore deepen integration, not only for efficiency, but for continuity with who we have always been as the people of islands bound by sea, history, and shared destiny. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister sung, create it there. Yes, Honorable Alfred, you recognize me, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the bill, and I choose not to repeat anything anyone has said. I agree. But since I just want to say, the minister spoke about some of the people who have registered from the 4 countries who signed on to the protocol. But since the meeting, the 49th meeting of the Conference of the Caribbean Heads of Government, at which Barbados, along with Belize, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, signed their intention to participate in the implementation of the full free movement of CARICOM nationals under the Protocol on Enhancement Cooperation, we have been getting a lot of inquiries, and I'm sure it's going to the numbers are going to increase, and we have also gotten some, at least 4 or 5 from Belize. So, Mr. Speaker, I just wish to share the procedure in case any other colleague having any questions that they too can be privy to the information. So, Mr. Speaker, in this regard, students from early childhood to secondary public schools will not be subjected to payment of school fees. These things are already in place. These students will benefit from all government-sponsored programs at public schools, example, the school feeding program. And the registration process for these students, because a number of people calling asking from these 4 countries, Incoming students to Dominica must be registered at the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training, and National Excellence. And parents must produce proof that they are the legal guardian or parents of these children. Also, they must also produce the most recent report cards from the previous schools, clearly indicating the students' academic performance, conduct, and attendance. An original copy of their students' birth certificate and proof of citizenship, either for a passport, national identification card, or any pictorial document confirming the student's national identity. And we also ask for a signed and stamped document by a relevant expert informing of any health condition that require monitoring by school officials. Mr. Speaker, the students will be placed in alignment with the placement with Dominica's system, and there were some questions also about if the parents want to do an assessment. National educators, if they're in doubt of place of what the child report is showing, to align it with our placement, they can be given an assessment exam, or if the parent or guardian asks. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, with 7 big schools being constructed, 5 primary school and 1 secondary school sponsored by the People's Republic of China, and the grammar school, the Ministry of Education is well positioned as we look forward to accepting students who will move with their parents to do all the business that we spoke about, and we are presently positioned and ready and accepting students from the countries that are signatory to the full free movement under the protocol on enhanced cooperation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
And good afternoon to everyone. Mr. Speaker, I want to rise briefly to give my support to the CARICOM Movement of Actors Bill. And most of what my colleagues mentioned before, I really want to reiterate that Honorable Henderson's contribution basically summed up everything that we could have said here today, but it would be remiss of us for us not to give our support to the bill. And, you know, Mr. Speaker, I went to bed with something on my mind, and I always ask myself, was Dominica always, do people really believe that Dominica was always what it is today? What do we see? I mean, I'm a baby still. I was born 1998, right? So I'm pretty young still, and there's not much that I've seen in my life. 1998, yes, very, very young. And some of the young people or the young adults believe that what we have available to us in Dominica, whether through legislation or infrastructure, or some of the opportunities that we have in Dominica have always existed. And today we passed our payments bill, and sometimes I just want to tap my phone with my card on it and make a payment. But then I have to work with cash. Some people not taking card. We cannot have Zelle and PayPal because we don't have a bank account in the States and all of that. But I'm young still, you know, and I think we have a lot of progress to make. But this bill, at its heart, is about one that is simple but powerful, and it proves that we are moving toward free and fair movement. Free to establish, free to invest, free to serve, and just free to spend. Sometimes I just want to wake up in the morning, go to Barbados, spend some money, you know? But this bill gives some real effect to the treaty establishing the CARICOM and Caribbean community. It brings into our domestic law the right of establishment, the right to provide services, and the right to move capital among CARICOM member states. And in real life, just imagine that we have young Dominicans now sitting at home who have clients all over the Caribbean. And we have agro-processors who expand distribution all over the Caribbean. But we also have professionals like nurses, engineers, creatives, agricultural consultants who want to operate regionally without unnecessary barriers. So, Mr. Speaker, this legislation makes the pathway clearer. It builds confidence in both those living in Dominica and those who want to come to Dominica and those who want to go to other countries. And Dominica is small in its geography, but we must never limit our vision, you know, because there's a lot out there to discover, there's a lot out there to experience, and if we continue living in a small $75,000 bubble, there's a lot that we're going to be missing out on. And we need to continue to deepen our participation in the CARICOM single market and economy, so we are not left behind. We continue to expand ourselves, we continue to expand our economic space from 75,000 to maybe 70 million. And as Honorable Wenham mentioned earlier, this is really not surrendering our sovereignty, it's not surrendering the sovereignty of any CARICOM country, but it is strengthening our strategy. And small island states cannot continue to afford isolation because climate change does not isolate us, global markets do not isolate us, and technology do not isolate us. So with that being said, our legislation should not isolate us either. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to, with these few words, I want to stand firmly and support this bill because the integration that CARICOM presents is not a threat to Dominica, it's a multiplier of Dominica. We remain proudly Dominican, but we also remain proudly Caribbean, and today we move forward from aspiration to action. So with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I support the bill.
Yes, Senator Roll, you may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Boy, oh boy, what 7 days does. How quickly 7 days has gone by, Mr. Speaker. As if you recall, last week we were out there, and this week, Mr. Speaker, we are here. Time surely does fly, Mr. Speaker. We were out there making a crazy mess, but we're inside here today. But, Mr. Speaker, this, so soon, I tell you. Mr. Speaker, this afternoon, I rise in support of the CARICOM Community Movement of Factors Bill. Mr. Speaker, I stand today as a proud alumni of the University of the West Indies. And really and truly, this is what compelled me to stand this afternoon to make a very brief intervention. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear from the onset. This bill is really about opportunity, and it's about integration and economic strength. Like my colleague, Honorable Joseph, mentioned, it's about us not being confined to our geographic location, but being empowered by the opportunities of regional integration, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we must do so without fear. Without fear, because there'll be people in the public domain who will try to instill fear that, you know, people will come with foreign businesses and they will take our jobs and there'll be increased competition and the capital movement. But, Mr. Speaker, Dominicans deserve facts and not fear. And really and truly, this legislation has been enacted in several countries throughout the Caribbean. And through my research, I have not seen anywhere where there was issues that had been brought up as a result of the legislation, which tells me that it has been working quite well. And it tells me also that it will work quite well for us here in Dominica. And Mr. Speaker, it's a good time to emphasize to the public that because of the harmonized and reciprocal nature of this bill, it will ensure that Dominican entrepreneurs, Dominican professionals have that same right to go into other CARICOM territories and, offer their services, their products throughout the region, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, some may raise concerns about protecting local businesses. But for me, Mr. Speaker, the greatest threat to a Dominican business is not competition. The greatest threat is isolation. And just to piggyback on what Honorable Joseph said about isolation, isolation limits opportunity. Isolation limits growth, and it limits investment. Integration, Mr. Speaker, that's what expands opportunity. Integration strengthens business. Integration creates jobs, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, what I like about this bill also is in this bill there's a beauty that lies in the balance. So yes, it's open, but there are some restrictions that the minister may enforce. So like Honorable Wenham Shepherd said, we're not losing sovereignty because we still have control over these things in terms of our national interest, security, etc. But we are telling our fellow Caribbean brothers, CARICOM brothers and sisters, that we welcome you and we will support you. And in turn, this will help us grow as a country, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this bill, it sends yet another powerful signal to investors, to entrepreneurs, and to the region that Dominica remains serious about economic growth. It strengthens investor confidence, it strengthens legal certainty, and it strengthens Dominica's competitiveness within the Caribbean. Mr. Speaker, we live in a highly competitive global environment. Capital is mobile, businesses are mobile, talent is mobile. The countries that succeed are those that position themselves strategically. And this government understands that reality. And that's why we're investing in infrastructure. That's why we're building an international airport. That's why we are leading in geothermal energy, like Honorable Dr. Henderson ever so frequently reminds us. And that's why we are strengthening entrepreneurship. And this is why we are advancing legislation such as this. Because we are building not just for today, but for the future. And so, Mr. Speaker, this is why I give this bill my full and unwavering support. And I urge all members of this Honorable House to do the same. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Laville, you are recognized, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today not merely as a legislator, but as a proud Caribbean man, a son of the blue sea, the lush green mountains of Diablo Terre, Mr. Speaker, a child of civilization born in struggle, baptized in salt water, and certainly crowned in resilience. But Mr. Speaker, there is a saying from a great Trinidadian Calypsonian, the mighty Chuck Dust, and I know Honorable Blackmore, a student of Calypso, would know that well, that all we have is just seawater and sand. Mr. Speaker, I am not blessed with singing, the ability to sing, so I shall not lead you in that direction today, but this is certainly deep. That saying is not a cry of poverty, Mr. Speaker, but it's a call to our collective consciousness. All we have is just seawater and sand. Yes, but that sea connects us. That sand carries our footprints from the archipelago in Bahamas all the way to Trinidad and Tobago, and from the east to west, from Belize to Cuba, Dominica, across to Barbados. This bill, to give effect to the provision of the treaty establishing the Caribbean single market and and economy movement of factors is not merely just legal housekeeping. Mr. Speaker, it is instead historical housekeeping. It is the continuation of that great vision by the writers, the initial writers of the treaty forming CARICOM, Forbes Burnham, Errol Barrow, Michael Manley, and Dr. Eric Williams, Mr. Speaker, that our smallness must never mean our weakness, and our geography must never, ever limit our destiny. Look at our carnival just merely days ago. The streets alive, drums talking in a language that we have learned is bouillon. Costumes blazing over the Caribbean Sea, nearly 10,000 visitors coming to our shores, many of them being our Caribbean brothers and sisters, or brothers and sisters in the diaspora. That is the Caribbean single market in spirit. That is the movement in culture, in commerce, in connection. If our music can move freely, if our people can line together, hang together, fet together, build business together, then our laws must certainly catch up with that reality. In this difficult geopolitical time that we live, when the world seems increasingly fragmented, when protectionism and uncertainty cloud the horizon, legislation must be progressive, and that is what we are witnessing today. It says that we will not retreat into insularity. We will and we must collaborate, that we will share talent, we will share skills, we will share and move capital and opportunity across the waters with absolute confidence. Because the truth is, Mr. Speaker, no single island can stand alone in this world with giants. But together, we are not small at all. Together, we are strategic. We are together. We are sovereign in solidarity. This bill strengthens the spirit of cooperation. It gives practical effect to the Caribbean unity that we have been speaking about. It allows our entrepreneurs to scale beyond the shoreline, our professionals to serve beyond passport stamps, and our youth to dream beyond the single market of our 70,000 people, but instead over millions and millions of souls. We owe that to them. Mr. Speaker, this is not merely policy, this is philosophy, this is identity, this is faith in a shared future together as Caribbean people. I must congratulate the Minister, Dr. Honorable Henderson, for spearheading this historic legislation. Congratulations to you, sir. And our wonderful children of our Caribbean community shall be the ultimate beneficiaries. Thank you sincerely.
Mr. Speaker, I move to, Mr. Speaker, I just stand to give my full support to this bill, Movement of Factors Act 2026. I think it's come at a very critical time when it, with this modern economic infrastructure that we're building, in terms of addressing the capacity issues. This is one of the issues that keep coming up time and time again in terms of how do we have capacity to take us to the next level. So I just think the Free Movement of Factors Act 2026 will definitely address that issue. Mr. Speaker, secondly, in terms of movement of capital, this is of prime importance, the movement of capital, so that we can end up to the next level of economic development. And the bill does address these two critical points in our modern economic infrastructure. So in these few words, I give my full support to the Movement of Factors Act 2026.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to bring the debate to an end, and I feel inspired from Indian Warner to chalk dust at its best. This is, in fact, great Caribbean unity. It seems to be there's a movement for the renaissance of a Caribbean civilization. Yes. And perhaps we've lost the voice of Dr. Ralph Gonsalves as a Caribbean leader, but there seems to be the emergence of a new generation of Caribbean leaders right here in this parliament. And Mr. Speaker, I think the whole idea of the movement of factors, what is behind it is the philosophy behind it that is very important. It is really a recognition that we are indeed stronger together, that cooperation is better than competition. I'm sorry, Trinidad, but yeah. Sorry, you know. And we are in Dominica making our contribution to that Caribbean civilization. And removing barriers, encouraging the free movement of ideas, and as my friend told me, you know, creativity, solutions are not trapped geographically, but they can let them, they should be allowed to move freely. And people should be allowed to move freely as we exchange, especially within this Caribbean civilization. But most importantly, we are living in a very interesting times. They say the Chinese say it's a curse to be living in interesting times, but I think it's in fact a blessing that we are seeing so many things rising around us that will help us not only self-actualization and realization that we are a people who have struggled generations before, although sometimes I feel, I really want to check Lennox Honeychurch and see if he was right about this Negmao thing, because from time to time I get the feeling as if we no longer have that fighting spirit, as if we've lost the spirit to fight, not to fight, you know, not to, you know, but to stand up to challenges. Sometimes we fold too easily. People here don't have visa to go to America and everybody start to panic and cry as if we die. You know, we have people with the fortitude and the creativity to solve problems. We solved problems in the past with little or no resources. We look into ourselves. We turn to each other, not on each other. We were able to solve problems. And the whole concept of Kudme, and I like that Kalinago spirit, that it is that has to build us as a Caribbean. And frighteningly, we must not allow great powers, middle powers, or anybody to destroy what we have worked so hard to create. More than 50 years. CARICOM. There will be differences. We don't have a political union, and that is where I feel sometimes people give CARICOM an unfair criticism. CARICOM is not a political union. It is not like the European Union or the European Commission. We are functionally attached. We create a common single market and economy, but we have different foreign policies. We are free to say what we want, align with whom we want, and even as if you were to speak to, say, for example, China, and those who are with the other part of the province of Taiwan. And I like to trouble my colleagues in CARICOM who, contrary to the United Nations resolution of 1971, seem to be recognizing a non-state, which is Taiwan, which is in fact a province of China. But we get along. We understand that. There are 5 countries in the CARICOM that have those relationships. But we get along. There are countries whose defense perhaps rely on one country or another, but we have to get along. But what we have done well is that we have been able to cooperate in functional areas. In health, CAFA. Have we not have CAFA? Imagine what would have happened to us during COVID. We have a system of the universities throughout the Caribbean. We have UWI that has become well established and has provided great talents to all of our member states and to the world. So we have done well as a Caribbean civilization, and we must not allow events of present day to cause us to destroy what we have worked hard to create. And that is my fear, that with what's going on now, people are pulling and trying to gain advantage one way or the other. But it's just an illusion. It's just an illusion. We cannot change our common history, our geography, and we cannot unwind what we have created. So I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, that I'm making a contribution by bringing this bill to the Parliament so that we, as a nation, can allow the free flow of capital, which we need for development, skills, entrepreneurship, enterprises, services that we need to help to build this country, and to allow Dominicans to do the same as we move throughout the Caribbean. And I was observing, and I don't consume social media that much, I have to confess. But the debate on Carnival, and I want to take the opportunity, if you'll permit me, Mr. Speaker, to commend, Minister Charles Pemberton. She's not here with us today. Marva, the Ministry of Tourism, the Festivals Commission, all the people, the volunteers, all the committees, and all these people who contributed, and the police, very present. And I must say, they did so in a manner that allowed the peace to be kept, but not disruptive, except for they disrupted ASA in Granby, and I didn't like that. And I'm in solidarity with ASA, because Granby has become exemplary for Carnival. If you see in the last few years, we have had the best peaceful Carnival. We've had peaceful breakfast fete. We've had peaceful Isidore, and all we were asking for is a little more time, Mr. Speaker. So I stand in solidarity. But I have to thank the Bouillon boss as well for his contribution in Bouillon Day, and I hope the government will big up Bouillon Day next year, and perhaps this year, or perhaps even embrace it as we seek to build something that is truly Caribbean, but with a Dominican flavor. And Trinidad, boy, yourself, boy, take it easy now, boy. You can all you girls babying, man. That's it, speak, man. Jeez, man. So, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
I mean, what is that now, man?
Proceed.
What is that now, man? I'm on my feet, man. You distracted me. Mr. Speaker, so as we build our carnival in a true Caribbean flavor, and the competition that is created, we hope that our friends in Trinidad and Tobago will not see this as competition, but an opportunity to create a world-class product that people can enjoy in Dominica as well as in Trinidad and Tobago. And I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted that I do not consume social media that much, but the fact that people were now calling on certain action, which I will not encourage as a Minister of Trade. I sit unquoted, because I do enjoy Tuapita water, and I would like to see it more available in more stores throughout Dominica. I have always. And you can go back to the Hansard and you can check what I said the last time, and I'll say it again. And I'll encourage people to drink Tuapita water. There are particular establishments in Dominica that do not encourage. They give more opportunities to the water from the other countries. I will not call their names. But it was an interesting debate because people attacked me instead of joining me. But because of Carnival, they had plenty of things to say about the water from the other country. But I'm happy. All that is part of it. But I just wanted to say that as part of our efforts, I think we must embrace our Caribbean. I think if you go back to the stats, you will see that more people from the Caribbean came to Dominica Carnival than anywhere else. And all this part of our free movement, we need to encourage that movement, that exchange, that greater Caribbean spirit that we saw on display last week. Where is Senator Rowe? So, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy once again to commend this bill to the House. Thank you.
This concludes the debate. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026 be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time.
Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026.
The bill will now stand committed to a committee of the whole House to be considered clause by clause. House resume, and I have to report that the bill shortly entitled Medical... Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm moving too fast. House resumes, and I have to report that the bill shortly entitled Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026 passed the committee stage without amendment. The question is that the report of the committee on the bill be adopted. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Yes. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026 be read a third time and passed.
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Caribbean Community Movement of Factors Act 2026.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this Honorable House be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
It has been moved and seconded that the House be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House stand adjourned. Oh, wow. We're moving too fast. Okay, any seconder?
Mr. Speaker.
Okay, all right. We try to move quick there. Okay, it has been moved and now seconded that the House be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House stands suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Mr. Speaker.